8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
What is good, everyone? It is your boy Politic and Hot alongside my guy, Mr. Rich Michaels. We're a little light tonight. You know, we so used to going on and on saying Mr. Moyo Fit Chris Wilson or Mr. Joey Woods, but you know, neither are here this evening. But nevertheless, we are still steps coming to you live on a beautiful Friday evening, courtesy of All Authentic Talk Sports Network. Mr. Rich Michaels, how are we doing this evening?
I'm doing good. Another cold Friday, but it's the weekend coming up. I'm excited. Another whole week of wrestling. This was a good week, actually, too.
Yeah, solid week, and it's cold in a month outside. So glad to be indoors, to be, talking all things pro wrestling, all about that turnbuckle talk. We just came off of a successful Friday Night SmackDown. We done with the conclusion of both Kevin Owens and Cody Rhodes squaring off, getting ready for their main event matchup going down tomorrow at Saturday night's main event. But before we dive into that, we'll discuss that a little bit later on. We have a special guest joining us this evening. This gentleman right here hails from Providence, Rhode Island. He is the promoter of such a legendary independent company. And I'm calling it legendary now because based on the alumni list, this man has carried several superstars that you're seeing today on the main rosters of WWE or AEW or even TNA. This gentleman that we're bringing on here to Still Steps this evening is none other than Mr. Drew Cordeiro, joining us here on the Still Steps. Brother Drew, how you doing this evening?
Doing good, man. Pumped.
Oh man, we greatly appreciate you joining us here on the Still Steps. Here on Still Steps, we typically like to introduce our first time guests by asking the question of their first time being exposed to professional wrestling. So, for you, Brother Drew, when was the first time you were exposed to professional wrestling?
First memories definitely WWF superstars growing up, early 90s. Cartoons rolled into wrestling, rolled into gladiators. So I was plopped in front of a TV and I was watching it and I liked it.
Oh, nice. Any notable names at the time as a kid that really stood out to you? It was like, man, like this is some cool shit here.
I just remember being really scared of Papa Shango. And I'm probably a little bit too old to be scared of Papa Shango, but I don't know, Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels. Definitely as I became a little bit more older, there was an intrigue with Goldust. Stopped watching for a little bit. Then when Attitude Era kicked off, like got pulled back in watching Mankind, X-Pac. So all over the place.
You know, based on your response, I'm getting a sense that we're about the same age because look, I was scared as hell of Papa Shango, especially the one pivotal moment where the storyline between both him and Ultimate Warrior, and somehow he just put the voodoo on Ultimate Warrior. Next thing you know, he just started vomiting. You know what I mean? Like all the green stuff. Like, oh, I was like, man, like this is some nasty stuff going on here. So, but
he
yeah,
squashed that guy, and the guy's boots caught on fire after the match. Like, what kind of a stunt is that? Like, that's crazy. that really freaked me out as a kid.
Right. No, definitely. So
Yokozuna doing the bonsai drop and not getting up, like, nah. Like, oh my God, the guy's turning blue. Like, he looks exactly the same. But as a kid, I'm like, oh my God, I'm seeing somebody die. I don't want to see this.
Right. Wait a minute. Speaking of dying, what about the infamous casket match where they put Taker in the casket as if he died, and then somehow he just miraculously he started floating out of the casket.
So that was in Rhode Island, and there was a small chance that I was going to go with my family, and we opted instead to just watch the pay-per-view. And when that happened, I ran out of the room. I won't watch the rest of the show.
No, I feel you.
So.
I will say, and I mentioned this some time ago in a prior episode of Still Steps. I think like one of my most freaked out moments, and it had to been the damn, what was the name of the cage? I'm having a brain fart. Oh, the Thunderdome, the Thunderdome match over in WCW when Cactus Jack accidentally put the switch on Abdullah the Butcher. He somehow, you know what I mean? It was a Chamber of Horrors, my fault. I'm saying the Thunderdome, but yeah, when he somehow was electrocuted, I thought that was real back at that time.
Now people getting sliced up, and nothing phases me anymore. So I've seen too much of it, I guess.
Nah, I feel you. I totally feel you.
So was there like what was the point where you like, I know you were into wrestling out of it, you got back into it with the Attitude Era. What point was it when you're like, okay, this is what I want to do. I want to be involved in wrestling. So
let's paint a picture. Late 90s. Went from middle school to high school. Some of the people that I bonded with were really into wrestling, more into wrestling than me. I was into the wrestling video games more than I was like getting caught up and being acclimated with who was wrestling, the storylines and stuff like that. One of my buddies was really into doing the eFed role playing, email message chains, doing the roll of the dice in the chat rooms and stuff like that. My other buddy was really into doing tape trading and stuff like that. And basically, this is how the idea came together. You'd pay a premium to get 6 or 8 hours of footage, and the person that would duplicate the tapes would throw in their backyard wrestling. It was called Garbage Everywhere Wrestling. And so, when you're getting 6 or 8 hours of footage at a time, if somebody throws in a tape of 2 hours of backyard wrestling, like you're going to watch it over and over again. So my two buddies were like, oh, I can run a show. I've, done eFeds, and the other one's like, yeah, I've watched the backyard wrestling. Like we can figure it out. So it's kind of how the idea came together. Was we're going to do a little backyard wrestling. And it kind of brought all of our friend group together throughout high school. And then obviously college came along and a lot of people kind of outgrew it. And there was a few of us that were still really passionate about it. And we found this message board where there were other people that were similarly aged in different parts of the country that didn't have enough people to do backyard wrestling with. But we'd get together. And so like I went out to like Tennessee and Seattle and different parts of Ohio and Vancouver at times, and it got to the point where we organized 5 shows across 8 days across 3 states. And it was just like, man, we got to be doing something bigger than this. You know what I mean? If we have these organizational skills, we're just focusing on backyard wrestling. And the thing that was so crazy to me is I had met so many people that were professionally trained, but they preferred doing backyard wrestling. And it's like, there's got to be a way to take that fun component of backyard wrestling, the freedom and flexibility without somebody telling you, hey, I'm putting you on my show. This is what you have to do. But still like put it in a professional arena, make sure that everybody's trained. And that's kind of how Beyond Wrestling first came about in May of 2009. We did our pilot taping at the mega training facility in Elyria, Ohio. And, we had a couple guys that weren't trained. But we didn't like feature their matches and stuff like that. And everybody that was trained, we put them together. We didn't have any fans in attendance. We let the wrestlers just wrestle for each other. It wasn't like there were any times assigned, no finishes, stuff like that. It was just like, do what you want to do. And our second show was September 2009. So like, that's one of the things that I really appreciate now is that we get to do shows, sometimes 5, 6, 7 times in a month. Back in the day, we would go months without even being able to do matches.
Sure.
And that second taping, a lot of the backyard guys that I had known kind of fell through. And that was when there was a Carlo that came out from New Jersey. And just based on that second taping and getting the match on, the matches online on YouTube and stuff like that, like our guys started getting booked out to places like AIW in Cleveland and Evolve Wrestling. And like that immediately legitimized what we were doing. And so it kind of went into a direction a little bit different than what it was originally intended for. It was kind of like, hey, like let's get together with all of our friends a few times a year and see what we can come up with. And then it was like, wow, the power of that flexibility and that freedom really took the platform like to another level, like much, much quicker than we had anticipated. And by 2011, I thought there was enough demand for us to try doing live events. And, we went back and forth for a couple of years, but we really found our format with the first American Run in July of 2013. So when you ask, when did I want to get involved with wrestling on a professional level? I think it was probably when I figured out like, hey, I'm not going to be a wrestler, but I'm, helpful doing a lot of the other things. I had trained briefly, but I ended up, kind of blowing out my knee when I was 19. But you know what I mean? I never would have gone too far. I'm short and fat. So I'm not really athletically inclined. And I used to get really bad performance anxiety. But there were so many other aspects. That was the thing that was cool about wrestling is like, no matter what you wanted to pursue as a creative outlet, like whether it's like music or like video production or, you know, storytelling, you know, public speaking, even though I'm not doing the best job of it right now. You know, there's so many different outlets and avenues that you can take. So like when I went to college, I went to Emerson College. I got a bachelor's for integrated marketing communication with special event promotion. As you know, it's like by that time I knew that that's what I wanted to do. I'd originally gone to Emerson to pursue just marketing more generally because I thought I was going to get to advertising as a backup, but things started coming together quickly enough while I was in school that I was able to kind of pivot and fill my, you know, education with classes that would set me up in the right direction to start, you know, running wrestling events right out of the gate. And I even found like an old hard drive a few years ago. And a lot of the things that we incorporate now with like Beyond Wrestling and Wrestling Open are ideas that I had like dating back to like 2003, 2004, taking down notes in marketing classes. And those ideas stuck with me. So hopefully that answers your question without being too verbose.
No, it was a very good history. Very good history. And it really does dive into like the first couple of years there. You said that you trained a little bit. You didn't, and there were some other people that when you started didn't train really, or wasn't really trained. Did they start training? Did you have a school that you went to train when you were starting out?
I kind of bounced around, you know what I mean? Like I never understood the formality of it because New England, around the time that I was getting involved in wrestling, it seemed like it was either like you were trained by Killer Kowalski or you were part of a legacy of people that were self-trained. So
right, gotcha.
There wasn't a lot of gatekeeping for backyard wrestling necessarily, but a lot of the people that were doing independent wrestling on a somewhat credible level, like weren't trained either.
Gotcha.
And then everybody that kind of came through Kowalski's camp, it was like you only did independent wrestling to get to WWE. So there wasn't really a place for me. And I had met Ricky Shane Page. The girl that he was dating at the time lived in New Jersey, and I had known him through the backyard wrestling community. And so when she graduated college, they were going to move back to Ohio, where he was originally from. I ended up moving in with him. And so him and Vincent Nothing, their tag team Faith and Nothing. I mean, like being in Ohio, it's like we were in driving distance to like St. Louis, Chicago, Indianapolis. We'd go back to the East Coast. So I would always just kind of hop in a car with them. As far as what I did for training, like I remember showing up at Vinny in the Righteous Vincent, who teams with Dutch now. Like showing up to his backyard, and he had like a full wrestling ring. And it's like, oh, well, we don't, you know, we set up tires and plywood. Like he's got a real wrestling ring. Like this must be legit. And like, I got put in like a double hammerlock, tossed over the top rope, and like did like a full front flip and landed like crisscross applesauce, blew out my knee. That was like a 15-month recovery process because I put off getting surgery until I was done with school. There was this place called, I want to say the Milliken in New Bedford. Somebody by the name of Eric and then Anthony Stone were kind of like trainers there. So like, I would train here and there. And that was kind of like when we would get together with our friends and come up with kind of different ideas for what the precursor of what Beyond Wrestling ended up being. And then when I was out in Ohio, when we would tape at Mega Gym, like I would go train there a little bit too, but I would never consider myself somebody that like ever wrestled professionally. Like, you know, I performed on shows here and there and stuff like that, but I think it would be disrespectful. And I don't think I've ever wrestled for Beyond. Now that we're saying this out loud, I don't think I've ever officially done a match, with the exception of the run-in that I did at the Beyond Championship Wrestling show, which was March 1st, 2020, which was basically just a big goof to set up all this really serious programming that we had scheduled through the rest of the year, including season 3 and season 4 of Uncharted Territory. We were going to do a 10-week all-women's program. We were going to do a first ever live event head-to-head with WrestleMania during the WrestleMania weekends, which I guess is kind of commonplace now, but that was when WrestleMania was still one night. And then obviously with the pandemic happening, all those plans got dashed. So,
yeah. Well, we're talking with Beyond Wrestling's promoter, Drew Cordeiro, here on the Steel Steps. Now, Drew, I know you mentioned, you know, me as far as like prior to the evolving of Beyond Wrestling, as far as like, you know, you and your group of friends being able to, to start this company. Now, as far as like the connection like to today, like is everyone still involved, or has like, you know, anyone, a lot of people fell off?
Yeah, even like the original generation of like Beyond guys, like there's very few people involved. you know, Dan Barry's a wrestler that started with us back in 2011, but like he wasn't part of the original group. But, you know, he's somebody that, you know, here and there as we head into 2025, you know, doing matches for us occasionally as the schedule allows. Dave Cole was somebody that was kind of heavily involved in backyard wrestling and then not really involved when Beyond first started, but then kind of around the same time, around 2011, started getting a little bit more involved. But a lot of the people, like especially my friends that, you know, when we used to do backyard wrestling in high school, like none of them are in the mix. They'll come to shows from time to time, but even the people that were instrumental, like early, like setting up Beyond Wrestling, like Ricky Shane Page and a wrestler by the name of Jefferson Saint, like those are the other two people that I would credit as co-founders of Beyond Wrestling. So obviously, you know, anytime that Ricky, you know, that we're able to link up, you know, RSP and he's in the mix, like that's cool. But Jefferson Saint's long retired. He's come to a couple shows that we've had over the past few years, but you know, I mean, it's cool because you know, the flip side of that is that like, man, we're going on our 16th year. Like it started as backyard wrestling and we've been an independent wrestling powerhouse for, you know, a good chunk of that 16 years, super influential in the industry. So, but as professional athletes, like people age out. And I think with the introduction of Wrestling Open, that was like a way for me to put closure for what that chapter of my life was with that group of people, knowing that, hey, we're going to be moving forward with a new idea with really like a completely new group of people, very few links to what the origins of Beyond Wrestling were. And I've made plenty of other friends and other connections and other, you know, lifelong memories since then. And then, you know, a couple of years ago, we also started the Beyond Institute of Professional Wrestling. That was always like the piece of the puzzle that was missing for us, as we would get our hands on like these really good prospects, but they had already trained elsewhere. Right. And then, you know, we'd be able to put them in positions to succeed. You never take credit for somebody else's success, but you could give them the opportunities where in the course of a match or the course of a program, they can change the trajectory of their careers. And, you know, you look at wrestlers like Biff Busick and Orange Cassidy, Donovan Dijak, Keith Lee, guys like that, like they would credit probably having life-changing opportunities as a result of competing for Beyond Wrestling when they were probably already doing other high-profile stuff prior to that. But now to be able to work with people like as young as like 18, 19, like, you know, and have never stepped in a wrestling ring before, something that like I'm really proud of this year is one of our wrestlers, handyman Jake Gray. He's going to have 50 professional matches as of this weekend. He only started wrestling this year. It's, you know, I go back to the origins of Beyond Wrestling, and we only did 2 shows in 2009. And meanwhile, we have a student that's wrestled 50 times this year.
You know what's so cool about that? Because it's like it's a great deal because like, you know, you have like how like WWE and how like that, you know, like putting their hands into the developmental territories and kind of like, you know, piggybacking off a lot of the independent companies, hence, especially like with this WWE ID thing going on, you know, right now. Like personally, I feel like that could be a little bit of a gift and a curse in a way. With the based on the stance of a lot of the independent territories where now it's like WWE now putting their hands in the box where then it's going to, you know, put them in a position where they kind of could have a say where someone can go at certain, you know, man, certain times. But you know, we could dive into that, you know, another time. But
we can talk about it now. You know what I mean? I mean, I don't do many interviews, so anything that comes up, like I'm not going to shy away from.
Okay, in that case, I'll ask you, like,
sure,
like how do you feel about this launching of the WWID? Because you know, I'll ask you that first.
Sure.
We could just, you know, have a formal discussion about
sure.
that.
I would guess I would say I'm cautiously optimistic. You know, it hasn't had much of an effect one way or another on our day-to-day operations for what we do with Beyond Wrestling and Wrestling Open. Some of the Wrestling Open officials, I had expressed my frustration maybe about a week or two before WWID had gotten announced, because it came up in my Facebook memories, and I'd put up a post saying like, oh, in 2 or 3 years, you're going to see these wrestlers from the first season of Wrestling Open like on TV, because that's what happened with the first season of Uncharted Territory.
Yeah,
that's where like people like Carmelo Hayes and Layla Hirsch and Bear Country, who were unknowns to me at the time, and after a couple episodes had gotten over with the crowd enough to be able to earn opportunities with WWE and AEW. And it was like, you know, I had seen that, and it's like, man, it's been 2 years and nobody's gotten picked up. Like, what are we doing wrong? And then it was like, oh, by the way, 7 people that you work with regularly are now signed to WWID contracts. And it's like, okay, like, so we were doing something right, you know, because we're connected, you know. It's not a brag. It's a fact. You know, people from WWE and NXT and AEW give us feedback and tell us basically what those organizations are looking for. And that's the function of Wrestling Open. Wrestling Open is a complete 180 from what Beyond Wrestling was. Beyond Wrestling was, you're a wrestler, you're an expert, you do whatever you want. Wrestling Open is, hey, we've got all these people that are relatively new to the sport that are looking for a fast track to get to television wrestling. Let's put them in a highly structured weekly independent wrestling environment and see, if they're able to perform in this kind of pressure cooker. So with WWID, I mean, it seems like people, that I've talked to, like Marcus Mathers and Bryce Donovan, Brad Baylor, Ricky Smoke, Skull, it seems like they are all going to be able to pursue wrestling. It's all about reps, right? Like you can only get like whatever the expression is now about, like putting in your 10,000 hours to become a master. Like it sounds like WWID program is going to allow these wrestlers to hone their craft with more opportunities at a faster rate to see if they develop quicker. And that's really thus far, as we've interacted with it, the extent of it. As far as I know, there's no restrictions whatsoever. I mean, Marcus Mathers is wrestling in a Fans Bring the Weapons match on New Year's Eve. Aaron Rourke is, he's done mixed tag matches and stuff like that. So the type of stuff that you wouldn't necessarily see in WWE, I don't know that the WWID platform is going to promote it necessarily if it doesn't kind of fit in with what their vision is. But thus far, it's not like, oh, you can't work the show, or, this has to be done a specific way. But I do think that the people within the WWID program, those prospects that are able to best meet the needs of what WWE is looking for, will probably get fast tracked. That would be my assumption. And not being critical of NXT's programming, because on a significantly smaller basis, obviously, I only have a fraction of the knowledge of what it's like to run a weekly programming. The fact that they're able to do it on, broadcast television and touring and, with all of the other different factors at play. So it's not fair for me to be able to say that I can directly relate. But putting together a weekly program can be difficult. And I think that, they have a great tag team roster. I think they have a great women's division. I think there's a couple holes in the men's division just based on some unexpected injuries and some of the people that got called up and some of the people that got let go at the start of the year. Obviously, a good partnership with TNA kind of to carry it through the summer. But it wouldn't surprise me to see some of the WWID guys being next in line to get called up if they get the opportunity. So you're going to be prepared for it. And I think that that's going to give them the tools to get a head start on that. So that way it's not spending years in developmental when you finally get there. But it remains to be seen, is it going to be good? Is it going to be bad? Right now, as far as everything that I have to deal with, there's no issues. But time will tell,
Yeah. But early Beyond, like, was there a superstar that's currently on the main, like on one of the respected brand main rosters now, like you just knew was going to have success in professional wrestling? Is there one superstar that that was a name unknown, to us until he actually made it to those main rosters? Was there a superstar that comes to mind? Like, who would be that superstar that come to mind that you knew was going to be that superstar?
Sure. Let me give you a little bit more context. I remember in 2013 when Biff Busick and Drew Gulak got booked for PWG, or maybe it was 2014. It was like, my God, what an accomplishment. Because it felt like the work that they had done at Beyond Wrestling is specifically what got them over to PWG. And PWG was kind of like the last step before you went to TV. And that was like, wow, this opens up the possibilities that, like, instead of us just getting our friends booked at, places the way that they want to be represented, it's like, oh, wow, we can help them get booked at places that can actually really change the trajectory of their career. So there were probably some people that we worked with, like maybe in the first 5 or 6 years, and the thought didn't enter my mind just because it just didn't even seem plausible when we first started. It's not what the goal was. But I remember the first time seeing Keith Lee, and it was just like, I don't understand how this guy's had 3 WWE tryouts and he's been wrestling for 10 years and like we haven't heard of him. Like, just didn't make sense. Somebody like Donovan Dijak with his size and his athleticism and I think something that's always really important is like you have to have kind of like a cool voice, right? Like you see some people that are like these big jacked up dudes, and then they talk and they have kind of a voice that doesn't match their
Like Brock
presentation.
Lesnar.
Yeah, exactly. So like, you know, Dijak somebody that was like, wow, I can't believe. But I think that one of the kind of issues that we've run into is because of that freedom and flexibility on an independent level. I don't think that all, you know, some of the guys that I mentioned have thrived in a more structured environment like television wrestling. You know, somebody like MJF, he came to me and was like, hey, William Regal told me to come to Beyond Wrestling. You know, all the other shit that they put on TV.
Yeah.
You know, I'll tell you the true story is that MJF was like, Regal told me that if I want to go to WWE, I either have to go to PWG, Evolve Wrestling, or Beyond Wrestling. And even back then, we would still do tryouts or studio tapings without fans and stuff like that. And that's how MJF got his foot in the door with us. And I mean, obviously, he was somebody that, you know, could talk the part and look the part, wrestle the part. You know, had a lot of different things going for him. But the biggest one's going to be Orange Cassidy. And it was just because, you know, he had been, you know, doing different things in different places. And when he had kind of come to me and, you know, saying that he wanted to do Orange Cassidy, it's like, I don't know. I feel like a lot of times people like the people that are producing the events don't understand what Orange Cassidy is. And therefore it's like, it's there, you know, what we see on TV is a version of Orange Cassidy through somebody else's lens. It's like, this is what I think Orange Cassidy should be based on what I've seen. But like the purest form of Orange Cassidy existed in Beyond Wrestling. And it went all the way to him winning the independent wrestling title, which I think was Heavy Lies the Crown, either 2018 or 2019. I'm really bad with dates. I'm sorry about that. But he won it from Hot Sauce Tracy Williams. And that was just like one of those moments where it's like, wow, like it worked. Like he didn't have to change anything to be taken seriously by the crowd. You know, he didn't have to wear black clothing or, you know, kind of drop the shtick in any way. You know, he had the creative chops to figure out a way to make it work, to kind of satisfy all parties.
Yeah.
And I think that he's probably had the longest run as far as like main event brushes since he's gone to AEW. So, you know, and on the women's side of thing, like somebody like Chris Statlander was just, you know, like no brainer. Like, what do you mean? Like, there's this freak athlete, just like,
right.
You know, and then, you know, after that, being able to work with Willow Nightingale, especially, you know, after she broke her neck and was gone for such a long period of time, and then she came back and it was just like, okay, this is so surefire. Like, Willow checks every box. Like, she's the nicest person of all time, but she's like a brute in the ring. Like, I'm
actually glad you brought her up. Look, let me ask you this: how do you feel about her current run? And, you know, without an unbiased approach, how do you feel about her current run at AEW?
I mean, I think she's done as good as anybody in AEW. I think that she had to take some time off because she got a concussion in Mexico.
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you, I don't know what her current programming is. I think the match that she had with Statlander was awesome. Obviously, the follow-up left a lot of people kind of confused. And to me, like Willow Surefire, you know, like
I love her. I get disappointed because I feel like they always set us up for whenever she gets this title opportunity and she loses. Like,
sometimes people in wrestling are so good at like rebounding that they're using that position though, and that should be looked almost as like a badge of honor, because it's not the same as being like a good hand. Right. It's like, oh, you can lose all the time, and you know, you can lose the big one all the time and still maintain your credibility and still stay over. Like, there's not a lot of people that can do that, so sometimes people get slotted in that role. And I think she's one of those people.
Yeah, and I think that's right. That's probably a good thing, because no matter what, like even like you said, like, you know, like she were to take time off, and then when she would return, like she's always a fan favorite, a crowd favorite. So I just feel like, I just hope that, you know, like those stories don't get lost. You know what I mean? For as far as like her not being in the running for a title shot. Not saying that she needs to have a title shot every time, but it's like you can't pair her up with just anyone. You know what I mean? In a storyline, you know what I mean? Like, you know, and that's the part I feel like they kind of, you know, fall off, because it's like, if it ain't, you know what I mean? Well, she lost the title to Mercedes, and then it was back into the storyline with Statlander, and it's like, okay, how many matches you gonna have with Statlander? Like, you gotta, you know, at some point open the door to, you know what I mean, where, like, I'm not saying like they gotta change her per se, but I feel like those were some missed opportunities as far as like her holding on to the title for a significant amount of time. That's just me being a butt.
I guess the silver lining in all of this is that with like wrestlers like Asuka and Shayna Baszler and Natty Neidhart, being in their late 30s and early 40s, with the way that WWE is heading into 2025, it's that it's not like 30 years old is the cutoff for women's wrestlers now.
Right.
So I really hope that certain wrestlers that we're seeing will get that inevitable opportunity to be able to go to WWE, especially if that's what they're you can't say you grew up wanting to be an AEW wrestler because AEW didn't exist until 5 years ago.
Right.
It's been a great
WWE was always the outlet.
Exactly. It's been a great platform for a lot of my friends to be able to make a substantial amount of money and a full-time earning as professional wrestlers. But if your dream is to main event WrestleMania, there's one place that you can do that.
Right. No, definitely. But let me switch gears as far as like going into Wrestling Open, the weekly series. It can be found Thursday.
Just
night.
to let you know, he's very excited because usually we do 2 questions. He's just going all out. Yeah,
I'm sorry. No. It was at the top of the head. Balls.
No, you're getting excited. It's cool. We're talking about wrestling. It's exciting.
Right.
I want to bust your chops.
No, I got you. And we're speaking with Beyond Wrestlers Drew Cordeiro here on the Steel Steps. Let's talk about Wrestling Open and airing on a streaming platform, Independent Wrestling TV, IWTV. For those who are tapped in, definitely go check it out. You see nonstop wrestling at any given time of the day or night. Definitely get the app. So, growing beyond wrestling at a time like 2009. So you're like almost borderline post DVD era, going into the evolution of YouTube. Before like there is like any algorithm, but like how did the marriage between IWTV and developing a weekly series come about?
Sure. We were really on the forefront with the social media stuff because it was free.
Right.
We first started and it was MySpace, and it's like, oh, do we get a Facebook page? And then obviously MySpace went away and we conduct the majority of our business on Facebook. Then it was like, hey, where should we put our matches? Where are we going to use like Media Cube? Might have been like a file sharing type thing where you would send somebody a link and it would be good for like 2 days.
Remember that?
Something like that. And then it was like, well, we'd go to put matches on YouTube. Like even if you go back, I'm sure you can still search them. We have some matches up on YouTube that are broken up into 2 or 3 parts because you couldn't upload videos longer than 10 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And so the importance of utilizing YouTube though was those links would go out, and rather than having to send a promoter a DVD or a tape or anything like that, we could get that footage over immediately. So as the wrestlers were coming in working for nothing, we were building a video resume for them. And that's why it's like, wow, I've never seen this wrestler wrestle like this. This is the version of the wrestler that I want to bring into my organization. And our YouTube channel grew from there. We worked with this wrestler who was also a magician by the name of Jarek 120. He was based out of Michigan. And he was like, you got to monetize your channel. You got to monetize your channel. You'll end up getting more views from it because YouTube will be making money off of you. And you ever see the clip of the guy that goes through the double moonsault and he lands like a Pez dispenser? It's like on Tosh.0. It goes viral every couple of months, like worst wrestling botch. So that was Charade, who then wrestled as Shinron, who I think wrestles as Ariel Van Gogh now, doing like scramble matches and stuff like that. He's been around a while. We did a benefit show for him after that had happened. He was lucky. He only fractured the base of his skull, so he didn't end up having any serious injury. Damn. I don't even think he needed surgery or anything like that. He just needed a hard collar for his neck.
Right.
But that was like November of 2012. And then we took off until June of 2023. And the entire period of time, we kept doing no fan tapings, putting the stuff on YouTube and, the matches that we had taped in front of fans up to that point, like just putting everything up and really growing our YouTube channel. The YouTube channel didn't really blow up until I want to say it was 2018. It was right around the time that we did the Beyond Wrestling lit up all intergender card. It was WrestleMania weekend. And I remember that winter when I had started operating my food truck, it was the first winter I didn't have like to keep another job. So I was just like, I'm going to put up matches like every other day. And that was enough to reward the algorithm. Like that completely blew up our channel.
Nice.
And so, from there, a lot of the things that we do presentation wise and our utilization of the social media and stuff like that, like, it worked its way into the mainstream. which is cool because it's had both a positive and a negative, but a permanent effect on the way that wrestling is consumed, distributed, watched, and stuff like that. Personally, I think right now we're kind of at like critical mass where it's just like there's so much wrestling all the time that it's really hard, especially like for the video on demand. Live is the expectation now, so anything that's not live, it's tougher for people to be able to go back and watch with the sense of urgency. It's not really anything that's come along since the start of the pandemic that's like classic, with few exception. So, we were always kind of moving forward with different distribution ideas. And I was really hesitant for a while in order to be able to do live shows. Cause like, I don't know, you remember Go Fight Live.
Yeah.
And there was like Hybrid ENT would do the CZW stream sometimes. And then like Flow Slam came along, and Flow Slam never really made good on the promise of like, hey, here's this place where all these independent wrestling promotions can be seen in one place. But then IWTV did. So that's kind of how we got tied to IWTV, was they wanted us to be the flagship promotion at the time for their distribution. And it just felt like the right time to start getting involved in doing the live streaming. And when we started working with them in 2019, it was like, hey, let's do a live weekly independent wrestling super show. That's how we came up with the idea for Uncharted Territory. You're going to remember then, that was before AEW Dynamite.
Yeah.
I think that SmackDown was still taped. I think the only two shows were Raw and 205 Live were the only two shows that were actually live. So it's like, wow, here's the third live weekly like show. Like, we were kind of at the forefront of that. Of course, during the pandemic, when everybody was doing like batch tapings and stuff like that, like every independent wrestling company was like, oh, we have a weekly show.
Right.
But it wasn't the same. So the first season of Uncharted Territory went from April to July 2019. I think we did 18 episodes, culminating with American Rana 2019. And then we came back for a second season, and that culminated with Heavy Lies the Crown 2019. It laid the foundation for kind of like what routine independent wrestling streaming was. It gave us the opportunity to like work out, some of the kinks by being in the same building. But it was very, very, very expensive to run that. It wasn't sustainable. I think that going into 2020, it would have been sustainable because we had switched to a larger venue. The first two shows that we did in 2020 drew over 400 paying fans. And for everything that we had set up, it was kind of like we had a lot of resources pumped into us from different sources in 2019. And 2020 was when the training wheels were going to come off. That was supposed to be our first event that we were going to run at the Palladium, was going to be American Run. I had the contract signed. I handed it to the guy, and I'm like, you're going to take – it was March 18th. And I'm like, are you going to take the deposit? And he's like, this contract is worth nothing. He's like, I'm not – he's like, we will not be having the show. He's like, I'll hold on to it for you. And we didn't get to run a show back in Massachusetts until April of 2021. And we had limited capacity in April, May, and June. And then it was kind of July was the first show where we had expanded capacity. And then August was supposed to be American Rana, and we had to cancel the show due to a hurricane. So it's like everybody got kind of screwed by the pandemic, but we got disproportionately hit because when it was finally our like coming out party, like, hey, here's like the people that we put in place. This is what our new roster is. These are the matches that we, that show sold out. We had Cardona on it, and we had to issue over $20,000 ticket refund. So we were really in a hole when Uncharted Territory season 3 started in October of 2021, and 3 episodes in, I'm like, this doesn't work. This format doesn't work anymore. Right. We're going to lose money. This is going to put Beyond under. It's going to put IWTV under. And that's when it was like, okay, what are all of these problems? Let me sit down. Let me make a list. What can we do? And that's basically Wrestling Open was the last 3 years of Wrestling Open was born out of the fear of failure of the Uncharted Territory format in October 2021.
Wow, that's amazing. But you found you were able to find that success by taking that step back and like understanding like what what worked and what didn't work. Like that's amazing, man. Like kudos to you, what I mean? And kudos to you for even staying on board, even during uncharted times, like with the with the pandemic being a very big hit in the world.
Well, some of the other independent wrestling organizations got a leg up because they weren't following the rules,
Right.
and it's just like, man, I don't know. It seems like kind of a big risk, like to do just for like wrestling's my entire life. But at the same time, it's like, I don't mean to trivialize it, but it's just kind of like, man, like, I don't know. There are more important things, keeping people safe and stuff like that. So we had, especially the part of the country that we were in, we had to take a step back. And I think some other wrestling companies, probably leapfrogged us and lapped us in that period of time. But, it's what I've always wanted to do. I've always wanted to bring the type of wrestling that I liked to New England on a regular basis. So I wasn't about to roll over. Just we had to take a big step back, and we did. We took a big step back, and then, 2024. This has been the biggest year that we've ever done. We'll end up having 69 events on the books by the end of the year. That's with 52 weekly events. Almost any time that you see us, outside of White Eagle, that means that venue is coming to us and hiring us to perform there. We get to perform in front of 2,200 people in Boston, which Boston is like impossible to get into.
Right.
When we did the Shamrock Slam event with Harpoon and their Clown Shoes beer brand for their St. Patrick's Festival in March, we got to do the Palladium. We're going to be able to go back to the Palladium. Being able to do the events at Ralph's Rock Diner, which I know that may seem silly, like setting up a ring in a parking lot. But again, like there's something that's super important that's tied into like the Worcester community to be able to do those events. We got to do a food truck festival. We got to do a show on the beach. We just keep getting opportunity after opportunity. And I think that we've made the most of it. I think that with the WWID people being announced, in a lot of ways, kind of the stretch that we have coming up feels like kind of a culmination of the hard work of the last 3 years. And I'm ready to pivot. I think that I can identify certain things that will improve our overall programming, help the independent wrestling scene at large. And I'm eager to be able to kind of jump into it in 2025. There's just, the only holdup is that none of us work alone. I rely on hundreds of people in order for us to be able to execute our shows every week. I need the fans to show up. I need the wrestlers to show up. I need my crew to show up. I need my students to show up. That includes production. I need our sponsors to show up. I need the people at the venues to unlock the door and, have security and pour beer. It's a lot. It's a lot of communication. And, in order to be able to kind of move forward with even new ideas from here, it's going to take it'll continue to take a lot of hard work. But I think one of the biggest lessons that I have coming out of 2024 is just how much hard work it takes to maintain the status quo. And if there's more opportunity with change, maybe we're better focused to be pursuing other opportunities. So that change in mindset is really going to help us just continue to flourish in the new year.
Nice.
So you brought up Listen, we can stay here all night. We got Drew.
I got nothing else going on, man. Let it rip. So
I appreciate it. Hey, the White Eagle is a staple for Wrestling Open, Beyond Wrestling. How did that form or start about? I know it started years and years ago, but what made that place the place where, okay, this is where we're running everything? Is it a personal connection to there, or?
Nope. I'm originally from Rhode Island, and I had a couple fans hit me up and say, yo, you should come to Worcester. We were doing our shows at Fet Music, monthly for 3 years, and then it wasn't the best relationship. We wanted to pursue other opportunities. We had opportunities to do stuff outside of Boston. And when people saw that we were going on the road, they were like, hey, you should try Worcester. And I think that White Eagle back in the day used to hold wrestling in that space, maybe something called like Powerhouse or Power League Wrestling. But we ended up looking at a venue called Electric Haze, which was a hookah bar, only about a block from White Eagle. And that's in 2016 where we first started doing our shows in Worcester. And it got to the point where kind of same thing, I don't know that we would have left on our own, but it was time to make a change, and we needed to kind of expand our footprint. And White Eagle was the other place that our Worcester fans had recommended, and we were able to, make it work for like American Honor Scale events. And then there was 1 week where due to construction on the block, Electric Haze wasn't able to open. And it was just like, man, we made a promise to these people. We're going to, we sold season tickets. Like, I made a promise to the wrestlers. There's flights booked. We can't not do the show. And White Eagle ended up taking us in. And so that was midway through season 1 of Uncharted Territory. And at that point, it was like, wow, we're actually drawing crowds bigger than what we would be able to do at Electric Haze. So why don't we stay with White Eagle? And it got to the point where we were running so frequently that we were renting equipment, we were renting rings. And so IWTV said, let's invest in a ring for the weekly programming. It'll cut down on expenses. and we bought the ring again, start of 2020. It finally shipped in June of 2020. I had a bunch of wrestlers like wearing masks. Like we brought it up to White Eagle, and we literally, it sat there, never got set up for 10 months.
Wow.
And the first day that they legally allowed anybody to assemble, but the first day that we did a show was April 1st, 2021. I had COVID that day. That was my second time getting COVID in like 10 weeks. I got it for Christmas and I got it for Easter. And so I remember at the time, Gerard from IWTV, because he was going to be producing the stream, and Chris Dickinson, both called me and they're like, the ring's fucked. And I'm like, what are you guys talking about? And just by chance, like High Spots had shipped 2 rings at the same time, and they must have been slightly different sizes. And whoever ended up with the ring in New York has one post where the brackets are like 2 inches off. So our ring that we used up until this past summer literally was sloped like a couple inches. Like it always went towards the corner where the bar was. It never made any dangerous situation for the wrestlers, and you probably couldn't even notice it on tape. But the fact that we had this whole plan in place, a whole contract for what we're going to do, because when we were going to start up Uncharted Territory Season 3, the idea is that we were going to do Uncharted in seasons, come up with new concepts and stuff like that, but it was going to run continuously. Because what we saw for the first 2 seasons was we're building, we take a break. What do we do with our fans? Then it was like, we started back here again, build. So the idea is if we run continuous, we're going to be able to have a better job of maintaining fans and from a marketing perspective, let them know, hey, no matter what, it's every week. It's, it might not be Uncharted Territory, but it's going to be wrestling every week. And so, and we were supposed to start at the school in 2020 as well. So once things opened in 2021, it kind of helped us say, hey, is this viable? And then by 2022, hey, we're going to still do this every week. But it's going to be this different format. It's going to be Wrestling Open. And then by the end of 2022 was able to, get the trainers in place in order to be able to open the Beyond Institute of Professional Wrestling as well. So, Eagle has been our home, three days a week for the last 2 years, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And, sometimes we do super shows and there's other opportunities, events and stuff like that. So, but again, you can't be relying on one place because you just, you never know. So that's why it's cool. Like we got to do shows, even though they're actually closing down at the end of the year. Redemption Rock Brewing hosted a couple of our shows in Worcester this year. Like I said, we got to do the Two Tribes Festival in August, and we're going back to the Palladium for Wrestling Open The Last Stand, featuring Steel Cage Warfare the day after Christmas on the 26th. We're so lucky that the weather's always cooperated, but we did 3 shows outside at Ralph's Rock Diner. And I think that there'll be more opportunities to do programming in and around Worcester. And I'm always, looking for the opportunities to find something in Rhode Island that's going to work for us. We did a couple of shows at FET this year and they didn't do well. I'm not going to lie. What are you going to do? It's cool that it wasn't a major risk for us, but I also like doing business the right way, which means that, everybody involved benefits from it. And they took a risk on us, and, some factors in our control. Other, both shows that we were in were head to head with. The first show we did was head to head with a free show that was a block away, from an organization I had never heard of, but they drew a pretty respectable crowd for a free show. And when we went back in October, same deal. There's another show running 15 minutes down the road with half our crew. So, but I'm always looking for different opportunities in Rhode Island. And I think it's cool that at least a couple times a year doing the double headers with the ICW, that spot that they have just outside of Boston and Cambridge, Sonia, that's a cool spot to do wrestling. It's a nice facility. It's a little cramped sometimes with the stalling suplexes. You get a little bit too close to those lights overhead, but it's cool to be able to bring wrestling to different parts of New England. I think long term, it would be great to be able to use a weekly platform as a hub and be able to further incorporate and integrate the story, so that way we can take the shows on the road. Sometimes the shows on the road feel more like exhibitions or spot shows. There's not as many major developments for what's going to affect the weekly stuff. But that's also where you're going to see some of the wrestlers that have come up through the weekly format pair off with wrestlers that have more notoriety on a national level, which gives our weekly wrestlers on the come up a little bit more credibility and a little bit more experience. So the formats work, but they can always work better.
Yeah.
Well, you know, looking at your weekly show, I mean, because you have TNA, you have
Excuse me.
that
Mhm.
tape stitch
Right.
shows, bless you, WWE and AEW, but you really are one of the only ones, independent wrestling companies that go weekly, and the storylines continue and everything like that. I know you talked about some of the challenges. What's the biggest challenges continuing to do these weekly shows?
I think with the weekly shows, I'm hands off with the creative process. I don't handle any of the matchmaking. Like, we have a separate team for that, because I'm really more concerned about like what the fan experience is. So like, I'm more focused on like the actual, like, you know, I'm not a booker, I'm a promoter. You know, what's the fan experience? What's it's going to take to get people in here? What can we do to build our relationship with the community and stuff like that? And I would say, the biggest challenge is dealing with the ebbs and flows and being able to look year over year. And like, when you see that sometimes like we're having a dip, like you just can't fight it sometimes, you know? It's not like, hey, we're losing all the time, we're losing people. It's just going through those dip periods and trying to explain to people that maybe weren't there last year, like, hey, you know, this is kind of normal. It's not indicative of your performance or our promotion. Dude, if it rains, 50 less people are going to come to the show because they know next week it's a more comfortable experience for them to be able to park and walk to the show when it's not raining. That's frustrating, you know. That's like, what? Like, people aren't going to come to the show because the rain. The show's not outside. But those are the different factors that I see. That when it's weekly, it's a double-edged sword. Our promotion is like so much more spot on because people always know where to find us. But I think that sometimes there's that comfortability. You know, we're just like, okay, well, if I skip this one, I know that it's going to be there next time. And we have a very high turnover with fans. We actually have this card system. This is like one of the secrets of Wrestling Open revealed.
Still
if you first come to Wrestling Open, you get like a green card. We'll stamp it 4 times. The 5th time's free. Then you get upgraded to a gold card. That gets stamped 8 times. The 9th time you come for free, but you get to bring a guest with you to incentivize people, you know, trying to get people that have never been to wrestling before. Then you get a red card that gets stamped 12 times. And the 13th time you get to go to a Beyond Wrestling Super Show for free. So it's like, you know, by that point, man, you've been to 6 months of programming. But what it does is it kind of creates the status. So if somebody comes through the door and they don't have a card on them, we can kind of give them the whole rundown. Like, this is how our show operates. This is what our code of conduct is. This is what the expectations are. If anything goes wrong, I'm the person in charge. I'm the person to find. It's not stuff that gets talked about on the internet,
bro.
but this is all stuff
that is freaking genius.
It's all stuff that we deal with. You know what I mean? Because I want people to be happy. And I want people to be safe. Because guess what? People don't spend money at places that they're not happy or safe at. You know,
right?
It's like,
right.
But to me, that's automatic. That's not something that you brag about. I see other places brag about it. I think it comes off as corny. You know what I mean? It should be automatic. It shouldn't be a selling point. So I don't usually get involved in those kind of discussions online, and whatever the online discourse is, I let it take its course and run itself out. It just is what it is. But like, you know, one of the things, you know, again, like along those same lines, like, dude, we ran shows without EMTs for years. And the first time we got a sponsor, I said, this money has to be dedicated to getting an EMT every week. And, you know, it's like one of those things where it's like, man, nobody should be allowed to run without an EMT. But that's why there's some states that are commission states and others aren't. So like, that's a huge feather in our cap, I feel, is that we always get to run with an EMT because we have sponsorship money to be able to cover that. So that was something that was really important as far as, you know, what I was working on to be able to allocate resources to keep our shows, you know, safer, because wrestling's dangerous, you know. But sometimes the EMT is there because, you know, oh my God, this fan passed out. Why? We don't know. You know, were they drunk? No. Did they do drugs? No. Oh, it's an electrolyte imbalance. Something weird like that. You know what I mean? But having an EMT on hand, you know, you kind of get that peace of mind without having to stop the whole thing to call for the ambulance. God forbid it escalates to that point. So I'm really concerned about the fan experience, you know, like, hey, what kind of food do we have? You know, are we charging, you know, an appropriate amount of money? Are people feeling like they're getting ripped off? You know, I don't have control over what the bar lines look like, but, you know, sometimes it's something that I'll notice, like, oh man, people aren't reacting to what's going on in the ring because they're spending an extra 5 minutes in line getting a beer. You know, hey, are these people comfortable standing here? Do they have the appropriate vantage point? What about these people that are sitting down on this side? There's so many different little things that I just observe every week. And it's more so, there's other people to make sure that things go well on the wrestling side of things. It's my job, I feel, to make sure it goes good on the fan side of things. We don't bat 100, but we do the best we can. We try and be reasonable.
No, that's amazing, and that strategy, like that's how you keep a following going too. As far as like build, it's like building clientele, but from like the wrestling fan experience. Like I love that. To those, I mean, I don't want nobody. Somebody's gonna rip it. Somebody's watching is going to take that idea. But that is genius, man. Like that is 100% genius, but it's also. I think what don't get mentioned a lot, of course, because you don't talk about it, is that you're paying forward. You know what I mean? Like no matter what, you're paying forward into something that you love, and you want fans to love it just as much as you love it. So like again, like that's genius, man. So I know.
I mean, a hard lesson this year is like, man, I just want to run weekly. I want to run weekly wrestling shows and make sure that there's people in wrestling that are better off for wrestling with us. But it's like, a community comes along with that. And I'm not an expert at managing a community. There's definitely been trials and tribulations and stuff that I've had to learn along the way. And but again, to me, it's always done with the best of intentions to do everything that we can, again, to make sure that, we take pride in the fact that we inadvertently built a community around this. Right. It's not just people buying. It's not like a transaction. It's not just people buying, tickets. Like there are people whose identities are, we're Wrestling Open fans, and there's wrestlers whose identities are Wrestling Open, and certain members of the crew and some of the students and stuff like that. Like it becomes kind of a, what's that term? The third space. It's not work, it's not home. It's that third space,
right?
And that's much bigger than what the idea of Beyond Wrestling was when it was backyard wrestlers in a training facility for a couple of days and going to a water park in between matches back in 2009. So again, not perfect, but still striving to be the best that we can.
Yeah, no, I got you. Totally understand. We're talking with Beyond Wrestling promoter Drew Cordeiro here on the Steel Steps. Let's start diving into, you have two big events, closing out 2024. First you have the Last Stand event that's again taking place at the Palladium. I'm sorry, my apologies, at the White Eagle.
No.
I'm sorry.
You know what? That those cards should say the Palladium. That's a little mix up.
Oh, it is at the Palladium.
Oh, it is at the Palladium. Okay, yeah.
Get those cards fixed. Thanks for pointing that out.
Gotcha. Yeah. Well, yeah. December 26th, we have the Last Stand going down at the Palladium.
I'm gonna send a text out right now as you're doing a voiceover,
right? Yeah. So, shout out to our guy Brad Hollister. He was on Steel Steps not long ago. Was it this year or was it last year? Actually, Rich, when was Brad?
It was this year. I think it was this year. We had him and. We had him we had him. We had TJ Crawford, Zeta Steel. We had all people that walked through wrestling, Wrestling Open doors.
Yeah, all great talent, and they all, got major success going on in pro wrestling. So Drew, for those who may not be, that familiar with Wrestling Open, talk about the experience of what, those who may not be able to attend at the Palladium on the 26th, what they could expect if they were to check into IWTV.
Sure. So, for the people that are going to be there, the Palladium is a 2,600 person venue, whereas Eagle holds about 600 people. In the last 2 years, we've gotten to capacity. It's been pretty cramped. So it's going to be a much more enjoyable experience for people that are coming to the Palladium. There's going to be many more vantage points for them to be able to watch the show. For the people that are going to be watching on IWTV, if you go to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Beyond Wrestling, I've been uploading some of the matches from the Two Tribes Festival, which were taped at the Palladium back in August. So that'll give you a better idea of visually what to expect. But it'll be one of the coolest looking independent wrestling shows from the year. There's going to be people seated on the stage. There's going to be people standing on the side balcony. There's going to be people standing in the pit. There's going to be people sitting kind of like VIP tables. There's going to be people standing in the risers. There's going to be people everywhere. And the acoustics of the building are absolutely unreal. It's just one of the coolest places to run wrestling. It's why it's been such a big goal for us. And to be able to take Steel Cage Warfare and the Steel Cage Championship match between Clancy and Brad Hollister, I think that it's going to be a culmination of a lot of important rivalries and stories. But I also think that, like, if you dove in having had never watched a single second I think he'll be able to pick up where we left off, and it's going to be a visually stunning affair.
Oh man, that's amazing. And then the following week, we have Heavy Lies the Crown going down at the White Eagle on December 31st. Some notable names. We got our Philly's own Marcus Mathers on the card going up against Cruel. And I saw we got none other than Nick Gage. How did that come about?
How did Nick Gage come about? You know, I don't know. You send a couple messages, you get a couple answers, you see what happens. I actually, I know this is going to sound completely insane. I haven't seen him since he's been back. He wasn't in the building before he showed up. He wasn't in the building when I got off commentary. Is the person that I'm talking to negotiate his bookings even him? You know, the king does what the king wants. So, but he was there at Sonya. I fully expect him to be here at White Eagle on New Year's Eve. But I don't have much more than what I've just relayed to you guys as far as how that relationship goes. I got a promo. Somebody shot a promo with him while they were trying to get some merchandise, sorted with him as well. So, he talks when he wrestles. He's not, what do you think he's going to be like texting? You know what I mean? Like it's Nick Gage. So
yeah, that's going to be the New Year's Eve mystery. will we get Mr. MDK? So,
I don't have any doubts about him being there. As far as like that's pretty much all that's confirmed. He's going to be there. Like anything else, I don't know. Show up, let's find out. But I'd be shocked if he wasn't there.
Oh man, and again we got Philly's own Marcus Mathers in the undisputed independent wrestling world title. Fans bring the weapon stipulations. So I actually like that idea where the fans bring the weapons.
This is going to be a fun match, man. Let me tell you, this is going to be a fun match. That's for sure.
Probably violent.
Without
in a hurry. That's actually how Cruel won the undisputed independent wrestling title last year. Is he beat Alec Price, Heavy Lies the Crown, in a fans bring the weapons match. So we usually do the fans bring the weapons match every year. The bell rings right at midnight. It's the first match of the new year. Nice. Previous ones: Masha Slamovich versus Kimberly, Bear Country versus Team Tremendous. I think Josh Briggs and
you have Ricky Shane Page too.
Ricky Shane Page wrestled Atticus Cogar last year in a no barbed wire match to start the show.
That was to start the show. That's right. You're right. Okay.
That was to start the show. So, things are a little bit more violent on Heavy Lies the Crown. So to answer your previous question, as far as what we can expect from Nick Gage and Drew Gulak, it's not going to be a fans bring the weapons match. It's probably not going to be a scientific battle either.
Right. I don't know. Nick might bring his own weapon.
No, I mean from what little I've talked to Nick's in a good space. You know what I mean? To me, he's somebody that should fucking he should be having a career like he's like a legacy, like he's a legend. You know what I mean? Like he should be being able to take it as easy as he wants to. And I just hope that for whatever if this is the home stretch, the twilight of his career, I don't know, somebody being in their mid 40s and stuff like that and haven't done death matches for such a significant period of time. I just want him to be happy and healthy, and we're going to do everything we can with our platform, to continue to ensure that. But, again, he was in and out of Sonya. He fucking did his job. I didn't really get a chance to chat with him too much. It's not somebody that I've ever really talked to too much, but I think that it's important, especially in pro wrestling, like the trust is there, being able to do business the right way and stuff like that. And, no issues with that so far. So,
no, definitely.
Don't believe everything you read online or hear online.
I honestly look. As you get older, you shy away from the dirt sheets.
They're fun to read, right? Sometimes they're more fun than the wrestling product that you get to watch. But you got to take everything with a grain of salt too.
It's like its own National Enquirer. Like, what I heard.
Yeah.
Hey, Drew, before you go, our other guy, Joey Woods, he just happened to to catch us, for the show. So I wanted to bring him up to the panel so he introduce himself to you and ask a couple of questions before you get on out of here.
Big
All right.
fan.
Yeah,
I'm glad you made it, Joe.
Definitely a big fan. I appreciate you coming on the show. I mean, you've been on for an hour. I had to do a job tonight, so I couldn't unfortunately jump on right at 10. So I didn't really get to check out the beginning of the show just because I was, doing a photo booth. I didn't get a chance to. But I know they had asked about the ID, and I not really sure the extent you guys asked about it. But pretty much my question is, have you come across any difficulties yet trying to work with WWE ID talent at this point? Like, have you been told what exactly that is and how that will play a factor at you from a booking standpoint?
So again, like there's no restrictions whatsoever. Obviously, we worked hand in hand with WWE as far as the program that we put together on November 14th. Since that specifically, incorporated things that were then brought to the WWE ID platform. But even still, like besides that, like, on a week-to-week basis, nobody's really checking in. Nobody's been told, oh, you can't do that or do this different or anything like that. So no, there's been no obstacles whatsoever thus far.
Okay, because I know when the ID was first introduced, there were people worried about maybe some of the talent being like, well, I can't lose to this guy because I'm an ID talent and he's not, you know what I mean? So I know that was initially a fear in the beginning, was that ID kind of trying to have some behind the scenes booking leverage, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, a wrestler might say that, and then I'll go to their boss and say, "Is this true?" we'll get an answer real quick. It's not going to be like any of this. Oh, why is Willie Mack not in GCW this weekend? We're not going to have any sort of issues like that. We're going to, there's one source to go to get a straight answer, and that'll be that. So,
yeah, no, like I said, I definitely appreciate your time. You gave us an hour, which forever grateful for, because you guys.
Yeah, I mean, if you guys get any other questions, I mean, it's almost 11:30 at this point. I'm not going out. So if I appreciate all of you guys have done to promote our channels and stuff like that. So if you guys do have any other questions, I'm not in a supreme rush, but if you guys are tired too, I could go to bed. I'll throw on a few episodes of Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives, and peacefully transition into an unconscious state.
Well, technically, we're going to transition in a WWE Saturday night's main event. If you want to, stick around and talk about that, you're more than welcome to.
Oh boy, I might not be the right guy to ask heading into tomorrow.
What?
My big question is obviously the old Saturday night main events formats. They would open up kind of with the biggest match to kind of hook people. Right. I'm curious if they're going to do that tomorrow, and if so, what that match would be.
I mean, they tried to keep it pretty star-studded, in my opinion. So it's almost a little bit of a toss-up. Like, I don't think they're going to go right into the heavyweight title. Maybe so. Because what I mean, with what's the match they got?
Cody Rhodes and
Kevin Owens. Yeah, I think that probably will close out the show. Being as though that the start time is at 8 p.m. So they will likely probably close out with that show. Now, if it was back in the day when it was it started around 10 or 11, they probably would have started with the main event match. But yeah, I don't think they're going to go that far.
Do you think any titles are changing?
I hope so. In my opinion.
Well, they said expect some. But real quick, I have another question for you before you drift off in the diner driving. It's last year you started the show with that no rope barbed wire, and this year we're having the Marcus Mathers Cruel fans bring the weapons. How is Massachusetts with the commission and allowing you guys to do stuff? I know, for example, in Philly, kind of blood is a no-no, and there's a lot of no-nos with Philadelphia and Pennsylvania Commission. Is there any issues up there with running shows in terms of what you can and can't do and restrictions?
Here's a succinct answer. There's no commission, so we will use our best judgment to ensure that there is no commission going forward.
Nice.
I'm pretty strict as far as what we are. When the fans bring the weapons, we set up a table at the front of the building, and I'll go through with my team. I also post guidelines as far as what is and isn't allowed, like no glass, nothing flammable, nothing liquid, nothing perishable. Sometimes people want to bring food, and it's that's That's not going to hurt anybody, and it's also just going to like make a mess of our equipment. And then to this extent, nothing alive or nothing that used to be alive. Because one time I love telling this story. I was at AEW in Chicago when they were at Berwyn, and they did a Fans Bring the Weapons match, and somebody had a beehive that they had taken out of their backyard, and they were like, "Oh, it's cool, like all the bees are dead." But when you bust open I don't know, it was probably the size of a basketball, if not bigger.
Right.
It's like this fucking dead dust just like consumed the room. There was no windows. People just started choking. I ran out. I'm like, God, this sucks. I don't know, like you think like you hit it and you think like, oh, it's gonna make like a thunk or something. It like disintegrated and there was just vapor of like all the remnants of the dead bugs like all over the room. It was disgusting. So we throw that in. But anyway, so we'll set up a table and we'll go through and check stuff too. And then, the wrestlers themselves kind of get some alone time with the weapons, kind of see what they're acclimated with. And, if there's anything that doesn't fly, it doesn't get incorporated into the match. So, very rarely will we do any, again, the no rope barbed wire match. That was something that we've only done one other time before. And, since we don't have guardrails at our events, we kind of set banquet tables around the side of the ring, which kind of made for a cool visual when they got cut and they were like smashing each other's heads outside the ring, and you can see the blood pooling on the white tables and stuff like that. But when we can, I want to make sure we can avoid like blood mixing into the crowd. Obviously, sometimes accidents happen and stuff like that, like any sort of projectiles. I'll never forget. Somebody brought one of those Poland Spring jugs on like a stick when Matt Tremont wrestled Stockade in a casket match in American Rano. And I was just like, don't use this. Like, this is, first of all, it's a stupid weapon. Like, you're getting hit with plastic. I'm second of all, like, what if the jug flies off? I'm like, that's not going to happen. Soon as Tremont gets hit in the head with it, detaches from the stick, bounces off. And of course, like, the people that pay to sit are not the most mobile. So like some guy just get absolutely blasted, and it's like, oh wow, he got hurt. I guess plastic was like a fair weapon. So again, we take precautionary measures, but no commission in Massachusetts, and I'd really like to keep it that way.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, there was a show. And it wasn't Beyond, but at the White Eagle Hall last December, they had like almost like a food fight or something.
Oh God!
With the garbage bags and
it was interspecies wrestling.
Yes.
And Paul London,
right? Yes.
Took the garbage bags that were filled with beer bottles, and he started swinging it, and the beer bottles and all the garbage juice that it collected went everywhere. And I had my students with a mop and bucket, like following them, swearing under his breath. It was really funny because so Thomas Santel, who used to wrestle as Antonio Thomas, like in Japan and like part of the Heartthrobs, doing stuff in Ring of Honor. I texted him in the student group chat as Paul London was trashing the place. And I'm like, hey, Tom, what are your experiences with Paul? He's like, he's a great guy. He's a great worker. And all the students are like, motherfucker, this guy sucks. It was so funny. But it's like, hey, those are the different perspectives.
Bullshit. Fuck that.
People. Exactly. One of the guys was like, I'm going to break this mop over his head. I'm like, nah, man, just let it go. But the venue, while it was happening, the venue thought it was hysterical. And then, one person rightfully complained. And then the next day it was like, oh, we're not going to let this happen again. I'm like, yeah, you don't got to worry about it because my guys don't want to clean it up again. But
yeah,
the food fight match itself. But isn't that funny though? Like somebody goes into business for themselves like that, and then it's like you made this big mess, but you took away from the food fight match where the intention was like to make a big mess. So now like those guys have less steam for their match because you kind of went into business for yourself. So whatever. Weird guy. Book him at your own risk. What do you want me to say?
Crazy, man. And to whoever bringing fucking beehives to matches, come on, man. Don't go to no more events. No more. Like a freaking beehive. Like
sometimes people want to use the Fans Bring the Weapon. I mean, the Fans Bring the Weapons match. We do it at New Year's because it's like, oh, you got a shitty Christmas present you're looking to get rid of.
Yeah.
It's gonna go from your house to our ring to the dumpster. So
like the singing fishes.
You know what I mean? So let me bring a cactus. Okay, well, it's in a big pot of dirt. Well, guess what happened? You made a big dirty mess. Like that's not fun.
Right. No, that's hilarious. Well, Drew, we greatly appreciate you joining us here on the Still Steps this evening. As always, someone who come on as a guest, leaves out as family. So if ever, you want to come back on, to promote future events, or you want to rant, talk your shit, what I mean? We're the platform here for you. Before you get out of here, as far as like social media platforms, where can people follow Beyond Wrestling?
Beyond Wrestling and Wrestling Open. Two of the things that I didn't even get to talk about. We talked about what a big year we had. We got to shoot the music video for Juna for Claro.
Nice.
And when that music video hit, it was the #1 song on TikTok, which also gets tracked through Billboard. Like, that was an awesome experience this year. We get to have Big Daddy Mark come in, perform 6 songs to a sold-out crowd. And, we just put up a clip from him singing Triple H's theme that has, I haven't checked in a couple hours, probably got like 3 million views on TikTok right now. So,
yeah, he's buzzing.
Follow Beyond Wrestling and Wrestling Open on our social media platforms. I don't know that social media is the end all be all. I think that a lot of it is more so kind of the experience that you get to have in person. So if you're watching this and you feel inspired, if you ever get a chance to travel out to one of our shows in the New England area, that's always the best way to get like the full experience. And the next best thing is we've got an awesome production team. So, because we get to do it every week, we're a pretty well-oiled unit. So watch on IWTV. It's only $10 a month. And, besides our events, there's usually like 30 or 40 other shows streaming live like every single month. So it's good to have if you ever are like, I don't know what I want to watch. If it's a Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, chances are you can throw on IWTV and something streaming live. So,
yeah, I just want to say shout out to you, man, because even as Beyond continues to grow substantially over the years, you stay true to your fans in the White Eagle Hall. So I do want to give you props for that, because you see a lot of these companies where kind of abandon their homegrown fans and they just kind of throw them to the curb. So I really applaud you for that and staying true to them.
Yeah, no, we made a promise to the fans in Worcester. We're doing this every Thursday forever. So whatever that means, we will stick to it.
Oh, man, absolutely. Again, Drew, we greatly appreciate you joining us here on the Still Steps. And again, they're running the Last Stand on December 26th over at the Palladium. The following week, Heavy Lies the Crown over at the White Eagle on December 31st, New Year's Eve. So if you got no plans, you in the area, definitely check it out. It ain't sold out, is it yet, Drew?
Not yet, but both are trending that way, which is crazy. The pre-sales are awesome for both shows, so we're going to be packing it out.
Nice.
Those shows should sell out with those cards.
Definitely. Both those 2 weeks stack cards, man. So
cool.
We definitely appreciate you. Absolutely. So that was brother Drew Cordeiro, Beyond Wrestling promoter. That was definitely a great interview with him. Discussing the evolving of Beyond Wrestling and to where it is right now. Like he, definitely. A lot of success is coming from there. Got a stack alumni group. We didn't even get get an opportunity. To go that far to talk about the list of the alumni. Like great promotion. Shout out to everybody that's part of the Beyond Wrestling movement, and looking forward to the success that they're going to carry on. Honestly, they're like the independent NXT. Like. If you really look at it, like they are.
They're just doing so many great things. And what?
I'm sorry, Joe. You were talking first.
No, like it's amazing because you watch, every Thursday night, and their fan base. It just seems like it continues to grow. Each and every Thursday, you see more and more fans there by the ring, standing there. It's just he's doing a great thing there, and and you could just tell he purely loves wrestling, just talking to him. That's what I love to see too.
Having that show every Thursday, I think, really gave Beyond the opportunity to grow their own talent, and it allows them to kind of make the talent, and then once they're ready to take that next step, they move over to like the Beyond platform. But I really like what they're doing there. You don't see that too much in independence anymore. It's kind of like a sink or swim type of thing, and he gives them that chance with every Thursday. So that's pretty cool to see.
Yeah, we had a comment on Twitter, gentleman, at Chris Sanders off, like he talked about Drew being a wealth of knowledge, and enjoying the interview. So yeah, he definitely. I love the strategy that he has with building the fan base. I don't know if you caught that, Joe, but he mentioned how like he has like this card where you get it stamped at every event, and then by like the fifth event, like you can get it for free, like at another, what I mean, at a following event. You
So
get
my
it.
card would be stamped probably within a month, because if he's running every Thursday, I'd probably
Yes.
be
Right.
divorced and living on my own.
You better find a house in Worcester.
Yeah, but but it's smart how he did that.
I'd
Because,
be there every Thursday.
I'd be there all the time, every single Thursday, without a doubt. But it's interesting because he did a stamp a card when it's green. You get a green card, I think he said 5 stamps, your fifth one's free. But then you upgrade a card, and then next time you get a couple of stamps, and you could bring someone. And then after that, and the whole goal is just to bring people with you that maybe weren't coming before, and then they get their own cards.
And then they'll get their
it's
card.
a really genius way of
and that works because he's like I said, like the comment I made at the end, he's so localized. He's loyal to that area.
Yeah.
Which it works for him, so it might not work for everyone, and touring is the option for some people because they kind of suck up all the fan base in that area and there's no room to grow anymore. He does not seem to have that problem, which is amazing. I'm not sure the exact show title, but I remember a couple months ago they had that huge show in like the big top tent, like a circus tent almost. And then they
was it the Shamrock show he was talking about?
It was.
In Boston?
And they had thousands of fans there. Like it was amazing to see. Like I'm not trying to like hype up GCW, but a non-GCW indie show draw that kind of crowd is incredible.
Did he say it was like 2,300 that was there, or I know he said it was a pretty large number.
It was a huge crowd. And he said in Boston to have that many people show up at just a little independent company in Worcester, he was like, oh my god, Boston is a big place, and they sold that out easy. So
Beyond feels really like territories without territory still existing, if that makes sense.
No,
Beyond
I agree.
feels like that territorial company when we don't have territories anymore, which is pretty cool.
You know what it kind of reminds me of too? It's like the weekly ECW, like with that production, and like the White Eagle is the ECW arena.
Yeah.
But that's what it reminds me of. But
because you're just so used to seeing that the ring with the balcony and stuff. You're just that's what you're used to now with Beyond the Wrestling Open, which is pretty cool.
Right. Yeah. No, that was actually a really good interview, even though it was supposed to only been a half hour. Sorry, Drew, but it was good. It was really.
He seemed okay. He seemed okay.
Like he said, at that point it was 11:30. You know what I mean?
He was like, "Fuck
he's
it,
already
let's
in for Friday night. Why not just run with it?"
He's like, I'm already here. Fuck it.
Yeah, no, we appreciate it, like greatly appreciate it, like. But he was dropping some gems. Like I really would like to go back to the part. It's not the most important thing, but I'm just curious to know like what was what was his algorithm as far as like knowing that he had something to really start getting me like the streaming pipeline, like I asked about the marriage of IWTV and the producing of the Wrestling Open shows, but like I would love to know like what was that number like as far as like the clips from the YouTubes. I mean, we could easily go back and look it up ourselves, but like I wonder like because like you're like post DVD era, YouTube boom is approaching, like how did he know like he had that viewership to to take things to the next level? I'm curious to know that.
It's funny you mentioned like DVD and stuff like that, because I think people like streaming now is better for the viewer standpoint, right? Because it's so much easier now to just pop on an app and be able to watch it. But I don't think people realize the revenue that was truly lost by these wrestling companies with the DVDs kind of being obsolete. Like I was talking to DJ Hyde from CCW this week, and he was telling me like the numbers they were bringing in from DVD sales, because streaming wasn't always an option, and to lose those DVD sales now and have to rely on like IWTV or Fight, whatever you might, or Triller, whatever it's called now.
Thriller.
Right.
Like the percentage of money you make off of one view for a replay versus someone having to buy that DVD is substantial. You're talking about like pennies on the dollar. So to me, to be able to see these companies operate that new minefield of DVDs are gone and you got to make your money on replays and live streams it's pretty cool to see.
Yeah, because nowadays, like, you remember how, like, in ECW, like, you had the commercial as far as, like, November to Remember, buy it at 1-800, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
Like, now, because we're in the height of, the technology and the power of social media, like, you almost got to, like, entice people, you know what I mean, like, with the post, posting on Twitter or a quick clip on Instagram for them, like, yo, go over to IWTV right now to watch, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Beyond, whatever, like, and that goes for any promotion, now, I guess that's what the, evolution of, technology, pro wrestling, and, finding what, what works, especially like go with WWE now, going to Netflix,
Cutting the cord was all fine and dandy, but I don't think people really sat back and looked at like the true
hit
economic hit it took on these wrestling companies. Like, you got to think some of these bigger like independent companies, when it was just DVD trading and stuff, were probably bringing in like $7,000, $8,000, $10,000 a month from just DVD sales. I bet you now they're lucky to make 500 on DVD sales a month.
Seriously,
if that, like, seriously, because like, why are you gonna buy a DVD when you can just pop on IWTV? I mean, I get some people still like to collect physical media,
right?
But I mean, I'd much rather just pop on IWTV and pull up, CZW from 3 years ago than have to buy a DVD and make sure it's clean and find my DVD. You know what I mean? Like to me, it doesn't make sense, and that aspect people don't think about.
Yeah, it probably costs more to make DVDs now than what it did 10 years ago.
Yeah.
like that's the wild part. But that's
everyone had the Smart Marks DVDs. That was like the independent go-to for like creating the DVDs.
Right. Nah, good times, man. So, all right, gentlemen, let's.
I'm glad I didn't live in like a tape trader era. That would have been a pain.
Dude, my uncle.
It was. It was.
Let me tell you.
You go back to like wrestling magazines and shit. Remember that?
Yeah.
Like, oh god.
That's like
totally different.
Oh, I'm mad. I can't think of the name of the magazine. Like, that's how I got to know George Napolitano. like, like I literally knew him from, him being like the chief editor of, like the pro wrestling magazines, and I would just have like a conversation with him like prior to like the start of a WWE show, because like at one point I had aspirations to take pictures, and I don't know why I never did it, but
it's funny because like I'm 30, so when I was probably like 12, right, like I started to go like real hard in the wrestling. So my dad's buddy like knew that, and he gave my dad this duffel bag, like I kid you not, like a hockey duffel bag, just filled of all these old wrestling magazines. And like we're talking about 18 years ago, and I'm like, why the hell do people collect this? Like, I can look it up on the internet. Like, why do people like, because like even like at that point magazines weren't, when I was 12, like magazines weren't that big. I'm like, why can't we just look it up on the internet? Like, why do you need these physical magazines? So it's just funny, like the cultures of age difference of magazines versus internet versus physical media.
Listen, I want to admit something, but I don't think I want to admit this.
That's it.
Listen, wrestling magazines, Attitude Era was probably like the closest thing to something that you couldn't buy because you were under the age of 18. That's all I'm gonna say about that.
So for me, it was like WWE.com photo shoots was the closest thing,
right?
Without getting caught on adult websites,
right? Like, because like my teenage era, like we all didn't have the internet. Like you knew somebody that might have had the internet, and you had to go over there to go. You know what I mean? To go, you know what I mean? To go. To see something.
Yeah.
But
And if you
like,
did have the internet, it was getting shut off when a phone call came in.
exactly.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. The dial up.
Yeah, as soon as you see that error message come out, like, God damn it.
I
Somebody's
remember
on
the
the
early
phone.
days.
It was just loading.
Yeah,
Oh,
the early
man.
days, like you would hold your breath when you saw the AOL guys. You're like, please
Man.
get to that third box.
This
Please
this
get to that third
this
box.
this generation Z would not be able to stand, you know what I mean, time dealing with a 56K modem.
Bro, that's
Like,
what I was thinking about. Like back in the day, like it would take like a minute to send an instant message. Now you can almost buffer an entire HD 4K movie in the time it took back in the day to send one instant message.
exactly.
Yeah.
Like
Like,
that's insane.
that's the wild part. So, but nah.
Oh, yeah.
We could,
But let
we
me
could,
ask you a question real fast before we jump into the main event. We social media was a big part of that interview and about how that kind of helped them, get to where they were and stuff.
right.
Some of these wrestlers, right, that are out nowadays, could they get over pre-internet? And what I mean by that is a lot of those guys had to get over with the promos and had to get over on their
Yes.
own. They couldn't start have fake Twitter beefs or fake, back and forths on the internet. Like they had to get over organically back then.
Yeah.
Could some of these guys get over back then, or is it an over reliance on social media now?
I
You
think
talking
there's
about today's world of
Today's
wrestlers?
world. Do you think
Okay.
it's an
Go ahead,
over
Rick. You got it
reliance on
first.
social media?
I think that's like the great thing with like a MJF, right? Because he would have got over
Yeah.
without social media. There's certain ones today that I think would get over, but I think all the ones that are over, I don't think all of them would have got over without social media. No, I don't. There's a select few that I think we're going to be stars no matter what. But social media definitely helped some of the bigger stars today. I completely think that.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I would think the same. Like,
not that there's anything wrong with that. It's just that's the era we're in. But
I'm trying to think like right now who's actually like really utilizing social media to like get them over, like over.
Like here's a prime example. I love this character. I love him as a wrestler. Don't get me wrong. Cardona.
Yes.
Look how his career took off.
Yeah.
When he started utilizing YouTube and making his own weekly YouTube videos and stuff like that, his career skyrocketed once he did that. You know what I mean? Like
shit, AJ Francis right now.
Yeah.
Like
did he win tonight?
I actually turned it off because we were starting the show.
He put in the work.
Yeah. Well, I figured I was like, I was gonna be surprised. Like I tapped in for a little bit, but I ended up tapping out. I was like, I'll wait, to see what it is. But yeah, no, definitely Francis, definitely Cardona. Honestly, I feel like Cardona might be part of the like OG of the boom. As far as what I mean, like
yes.
Landing on his feet without the backing of a major brand. And utilizing social media to catapult and also leverage as far as like going to different independent promotions. Like,
he was one of the first. I would say he's one of the first that really started that and paved the way for
actually,
everybody. That just
I'm lying. I got to get his dude his props. Although he didn't necessarily go like true independent, Cody does have some accountability.
Yeah,
he does. When he decided to go to Ring of Honor and then he went, went to New Japan.
He was everywhere at that point.
Yeah.
You know what? He bet on himself, and that's
so
everything right there.
I'm trying
at
to
one
think.
point he was in Ring of Honor. TNA.
Who left WWE first, Cardona or Cody?
I think Cody.
I do think it was Cody. Yes.
Okay, because in that case, then I would have to say it would have been Cody, and then Cardona.
Cody was released in 2016.
Okay, when was Cardona?
It was after that.
Yeah, because he went right to GCW first, right? Or
April of 2020.
Yeah, it was well after that. Then. Oh wow.
Yeah, he definitely adopted the Cody blueprint, but he leveraged it to you know what I mean, to
See,
his own ability.
I
Not own
don't think it
ability,
was the
but
Cody blueprint, bro. I think what set again, this isn't like blowing smoke up anyone's ass, but that summer of Gage and going to the
I don't.
extreme
yeah,
and doing that one death match and kind of proving like, okay, like he's more than just a YouTuber and he's more than just cutting promos. Like this guy can actually go. Like I think that's what set him up for success. Like I think that put him on another level. Like, all right, this guy's something. Like this
yeah.
guy's different.
I agree. And I think what also got him over was the fact that the traditional wrestling fan may not have ever expected him to even, you know what I mean, cross that path of like the death matches. And for him to do it, it's like, holy shit. Like,
But even
this
just
is
to do
crazy.
it, like versus Gage, right? Because obviously, like GCW trusted Gage in the deathmatch scene. I mean, hell, they allowed David Arquette to fight him in a deathmatch. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like they trust him enough. But Cardona didn't just do a deathmatch. Like he did a deathmatch. Like he was in it. Like he didn't do like a spot here, a spot there.
Right.
That was a deathmatch. Like that was pretty good match for deathmatch sake. And then he won in the showboat with that crowd and owned that moment. Like to me, him standing in the middle of that GCW ring holding that belt while he was getting showered with beer cans, I really think set him up for what he is now.
Yeah. No, I agree. 100% agree. So all right, gentlemen, let's wrap this one up. I mean, with the Saturday night's main event going down on NBC. What's your immediate thoughts? I'm gonna throw it right to you, Joey.
Oh no, I was just shaking my head at the Tin Man known as Joel Embiid just suffered a facial fracture.
Oh yeah, I saw that. But it's one thing, it's another, man.
Yeah,
Goodness
they
gracious.
should really just call him like the guy from that Bruce Willis movie, Mr. Glass.
Mr. Unbreakable.
Unbreakable. That's
Oh
it.
my God! Stop it!
That's
Stop it! If I'm not mistaken, wasn't that shot in Philly?
Yes,
I think
it was.
Yeah, it was.
Remember the football scene was the University of Penn with the Marines and stuff.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Say correlation to Philly. It always come back to Philly. Seriously.
But no, I think it's one thing to do Saturday night's main event, but I think the nostalgia that WWE is bringing back along with it, getting Ventura and Ventura, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, Jesse
But
Ventura. Yeah.
yeah,
Jesse the
I
Body.
didn't know if I said it right there. But
Yeah.
but getting him to come back and they kind of hinted at one night only for Cody, and we don't really know what it is, but everyone's speculating it's the wing belt. I think they've done a great job at kind of bringing that nostalgia back. Now I think it's gonna be interesting to see the stage setup for tomorrow.
Yeah.
I'm hoping we get that classic kind of Saturday night's retro entrance too, not just a generic big screen that they do every show now. But they've tried this over the past 10 years. They tried it a couple of times and it's just not successful. But I think they've really set themselves up for success now because of the matches on these cards. They're not just a throwaway show. Like these matches matter and they built to it, which is pretty cool to see.
Right. Nah, I definitely agree. Let's jump right into the matches. Actually, this one was just made tonight after the results that had taken place. Meechin and Chelsea Green will be fighting to become the first ever women's United States champion. Gentlemen, y'all want to run through predictions? If y'all want to do predictions, or y'all want to talk about it? All right, let's go with it. Who y'all got winning, become the first women's United States champion?
You gotta give her to Chelsea. I mean, the work she's done, the shit she's allowed WWE to put her through over the past year and a half. I think it's finally her time to collect her roses and get her flowers. It's just she's putting in the work, and I think it's time for her to get rewarded.
Rich, who you got?
No, I got Chelsea Green too. I was looking at it. I'm like, whoever wins the Bailey Green match is probably going to win this. I think Chelsea Green's going to win it. It's time. It's time. Give her an inaugural title. Fans love her. Give her a time. Give her her flowers. I agree.
And one more thing that makes me think Chelsea's winning is the news that came out today that GCW initially, because they have a kind of relationship with WWE, requested Chelsea Green to team with Cardona at the Hammerstein show versus Megan Vane and Joey Janela, and WWE shot it down.
Oh wow!
Had she lost this match, or she was scheduled to lose this match, I think WWE approves that. I think the reason they put their stop sign up on this match is because she'll be the United States champion at that point. And I don't know if they'd be willing to let their U.S. champion fight on a GCW card.
Yeah, no, it wouldn't
Good
make
point.
sense, and and could potentially injure herself. Just winning the title. But I'm gonna go with the clean sweep. I'm also going with Chelsea. As much as I would love to see Michin win it, like you said, as far as like Chelsea paying her dues, I look at it even further. Her character, always wanting to speak with management, and now with her becoming a champion, like her head is going to get even more bigger than what it already is now. Like, talk about Karen 2.0. Unfortunately, we might get 5.5. Like, excuse me,
Yeah.
I am the Women's United States champion.
Yeah.
Where's management? Like, we're gonna get a host to that with her becoming the first ever Women's United States champion. So yeah, so I'm going with Chelsea as well. So let's move on to the next part of the card. So we also have Sami Zayn going one-on-one with Drew McIntyre. We also saw McIntyre come back this past week, right? Was it this past week or last week? Where he attacked Jay. Then he also attacked Sammy. And he's like, yeah, like he's like on, like I'm sorry, he didn't attack Sammy yet. He just attacked Jay. But like he's like on this like attack spree where he ended up attacking Jimmy Uso tonight. So it's like, I'm not gonna lie, I actually like this reckless Drew McIntyre character. So I'm going with Drew to beat Sami Zayn tomorrow.
I agree.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I can also see it ending in a DQ.
Sammy can lose. He's so loved by everybody. He can lose, and it doesn't matter. You can't have Drew lose his first match back. Right. That's just the way I see it. That's why I'm picking him. It's just he's attacking everybody. His first match back, and Sami Zayn is the perfect person because even if he does lose, the fans love him anyway. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, I could also see this ending in a DQ some way, bloodline or something gets involved or something like that transpired after what happened tonight.
I don't know. I feel like if somebody were to interfere, it might be Seth. Because remember that last conversation him and Sammy had in the ring, like as far as like how cool they were. I think I don't know. Like I still don't trust Seth. As far as like his
they didn't seem that cool, did they?
His lead, I mean, his loyalty. Like, yeah, I don't trust him. Like, I can see that heel turn coming at any given point with Seth. Yeah. Shoot, a heel turn, both Seth and Drew McIntyre becoming, having a partnership. That would be wild. Yeah, like that would definitely be wild. So, next up we have the triple threat match with Gunther defending the world heavyweight title against Finn Balor and Damian Priest. I know we were talking about the titles changing hands, and initially I was going to say Gunther would retain, but I think there's some smoke with this report coming out last week as far as like a major push for Finn, and the whispers of titles changing hands during this event. I wouldn't be shocked if somehow Finn were to win this match, and I honestly think this might be the best time to have the win because you could almost make a case for Gunther if he were to lose that it was a stipulation match. You know what I mean? Being a triple threat. So it's like, he wouldn't have beaten Finn. Finn didn't get the win, you know what I mean, 1-on-1. So it could, you know what I mean, lead to a potential Finn Gunther, which I think will be nuts. So, but I'm gonna go with the upset on this one. I'm going with Finn to capture the world heavyweight title. Rich, who you got?
We're in agreement, man.
Yeah?
When they said it was going to be a triple threat match, the first thing I thought to myself, they can give Gunther an out, right? And he doesn't have to lose. He doesn't have to get pinned, really. And it could set up something. I hope it's not going to happen, but ultimately, I think it's going to be Goldberg Gunther at WrestleMania. I hope that doesn't happen, but you don't need a title for that. And I think Gunther's going to lose the title at some point. I was torn between here or Rumble, but this would be a good out because, again, it's a triple threat match. And then I just don't know where Priest fits into this. You know what I mean? Like Priest, what does he do after this when he loses? But
Yeah.
I do think that Finn Balor, they're going to push him. They're already pushing him because he's in this match. I think they're going to put the title on him quickly. I do. I agree with you. I think Balor's going to win.
You know what? Now that you say that, I think they may actually continue with Priest and Finn. You know what I mean? Still trying to grab that title. This might be a situation where Gunther may take some time off. You know what I mean? Just for a little bit, maybe to build up for Goldberg. You know what I mean? If it is, the match that's going to take place, you know what I mean, sometime in the future. So that's probably why they, you know what I mean, will continue to insert Priest into the fold, so that way, he can, you know what I mean, keep the long-term story building with both him and Finn. Joey, who you got?
I think Priest wins this. I think they've been telling that story of Priest and Gunther for a while now. I think we'll see a Finn and Priest rekindle their story, and the belt is now intertwined in it. I think that's why I do think they're going to save Gunther and make him look strong and not take the pin. But I think something kind of happens here where Finn was set up for the win, and maybe Priest comes in and like attacks him and then pins him, and gets the win, and that kind of continues their storyline. I just think Finn is in this match to take the pin to keep Gunther looking strong in the long run.
Interesting.
Because if Finn was going to win, right? I don't know why you added Damien into the match.
Because wait, technically, didn't
Priest and Gunther versus Gunther first,
right? But then at one
Damien in.
But didn't Priest fight?
No.
It
was Finn against Gunther, and then they added Priest.
Yeah. This match was originally supposed to be Gunther versus Finn 1-on-1.
Right.
And they added.
And you can't have Gunther take the loss. So.
Oh, I got it now. See, they insert Priest because of that whole situation of trying to make Gunther looking like he was like a scaredy cat.
Yeah,
that's what that was.
I just think they pivoted it and they added him in.
So we're all in agreement. Gunther's probably not going to retain then. It just
correct.
Who the belt goes on.
Right. we got Finn. Joey got Priest.
I just the only reason like I wouldn't mind the belt on Finn. I just think it's too fast to then put the belt on him. Like you think he just kind of came back in the title picture. What pay-per-view was that? The last pay-per-view. Was it Survivor Series?
Yes.
Did they fought? He just came back into the title picture during Survivor Series. And then in a matter of a month, he went from re-entering the picture to winning it. That's not how Triple H has booked it. It's kind of a slow build. Like, because they were away from each other for a while, and then he came back in, and to me, it's just too much, too fast. I'd be more than happy though if Finn won it. I just don't see that.
Shit, he's still tag team champion. I forgot.
You know what? I'm going to recant. Joe
Yeah.
convinced me. I think Priest is going to win this thing. Actually, I'm going to go back on that.
You might be right.
I think you're right. Actually, I'm going to recant, and Gunther's definitely not retaining, but I see the argument you're making with Priest. That makes sense, and he could get back that title that he without. Yeah, no, I'm going to go with Priest. Scratch that. Can I rebuff?
I'm actually going to recant mine, but
there you go.
I'm gonna go with Gunther to retain.
Oh, there he goes. We're gonna be different. Okay.
Yeah, only because they got to figure out a way for Finn and Jade. Finn and JD would have to lose the tag titles before they put the strap on Finn.
So I definitely see a title run coming for Finn this year. I just think it comes by beating Damian.
That's possible.
I think Damian the transition champion to get the belt on Finn.
Now if that happens, that means my other prediction is probably not going to happen, and we'll get to that momentarily. I'm gonna go with Gunther, and y'all both going with Priest now.
I'm gonna go with Priest. I am. Joey convinced me.
Nah, that's a good convince, but no, it makes sense though. But then I totally forgot he still has that tag team title. I'm like, if he ain't had that tag team title, I would say it would be 1000% a lock that he will win on Saturday night. But
plus the report came out, like they said, that the title's going to be switching hands. I don't think Cody's losing at a Saturday night main event show. So I just think it points to this.
There. We gonna get there.
I don't think so either.
Listen, spoiler alert. The 20th show is already taped.
Right.
And let's just leave it at
Ah.
that.
Word. Yeah, you done killed the moment, man.
There was a promo cut and there was no belt. But it was a backstage promo, so there might be hope still.
Tragic. Anyway, Women's World Championship match. Liv defended the title against Io Sky. I got Liv retaining.
So,
Joe, you got it.
Liv is retaining, but I think Tiffy cashes in here. If you watch Raw this past week, I think she was there.
She was
in the corner, like
talking in the back.
Yes, to Pierce. So maybe she's one of the talents that is swapping over to Raw.
I tweeted about that. I was like, it's interesting to see, Tiffy just back there talking to Adam Pearce.
Yeah, maybe she's one of the talents going to be swapping, and she's going to announce that swap after she wins the title. I don't know, because if not, this match doesn't make much sense to me.
I still believe she's going to cash in on Nia.
I think that's the bigger pop. That makes the more sense.
Yeah, but to do that, then she would have to be the face. I don't know if they're ready to do that yet.
I think they are, and I think that's why they're gradually inserting what's Gargano's wife name?
Candice.
LeRae. Candice LeRae.
Yeah.
I think even if she cashed in on Liv, she'd do it as a face, right? So no matter, you got two heels as champions, so no matter who she does it, you're kind of pushing her towards being a face. But I just think it's going to be a bigger pop with Jax, just based on the history.
Yeah.
But I do have Liv Morgan winning.
I think Liv wins.
All right. Next up,
Does it go back to Rhea? Does it eventually go back to Rhea? Do you think Rhea and Liv revisit stuff at WrestleMania?
It's possible. Then again, I don't know. If anything, it probably would ignite at the Rumble.
She's held that briefcase way too long.
Talking about Tiffy. I said, when was Money in the Bank? Was that July? Like
They
late
never had a
July?
female hold it that long. That's true.
July.
Yeah.
See, they got to be strategic with her. They cashing it in. I think with the build up with again, what's going on with her, Nia Jackson, Candice LeRae, like I think it's going to come in there. And plus, they just teased about what was it, Nia and Tiffy to go for the tag titles against Bianca and now Naomi, which I'm really beginning to believe Naomi did injure Jade Cargill. Like she definitely did that. Like, but not to go way left. We table that for another discussion. But the undisputed WWE Championship, Cody Rhodes defending the title against Kevin Owens. According to Joey, spoiler alert.
Well, it was a backstage promo, so maybe he just wasn't wearing. He doesn't have his belt with him backstage.
Right. Wait, they cut that episode tonight?
Yeah.
Or after tonight's SmackDown? I'm assuming.
Yeah.
God damn it, WWE! Y'all couldn't wait. Like
But I don't think Cody was on the show tonight. I mean, tomorrow next week.
It was just Owens that cut the promo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't read it. Well, I haven't have a chance to, but I don't want to read it. But now that y'all mentioned it, I had no choice but to read it.
But wouldn't that if Cody won and Owens lost, wouldn't you think Cody be on the show this next week and not Owens?
I mean, it all depends on what Owens is saying.
The only thing it says is it was a fiery promo.
Fiery promo. See, that could go, one or another way. Like he could be, he could be talking about his success. You know what? I got Kevin Owens winning by disqualification. He ain't gonna get the title, but he gonna win by DQ somehow. Something's gonna take place, and by it being Saturday night's main event, it wouldn't surprise me if they some type of like hokey, shenanigan were to take place. Like,
see, that would be a good choice if this wasn't a Saturday night's main event. And here's what I mean by that. This will probably be the main event of the card, right?
Yeah.
WWE has worked their behind off to build this up, make this feel important again. They're obviously trying to make this a quarterly thing, possibly, because there's already one scheduled for, I think, January, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
I don't think you can have this show go off the air with a match ending by disqualification. I think it's a bad look for the company, for fans who might just be flipping the channel.
Right.
And to see a match end like that. So I think whoever wins cleanly. I'm gonna go Cody here, regardless of what happens next week on SmackDown. I don't know. I just think Cody holds on here. I don't think WWE's ready to pull the plug yet and say that this Cody Rhodes as the face of the company is a failed operation.
Wait till we get to our state of promotion next week.
I think WWE thought that they had John Cena type star here. I just don't think Cody's the type of person that transcends outside of the wrestling business. They've tried hard with the vodka and the bus and they tried, but I just don't think he's that caliber of person.
With the Lex Express.
Yeah.
That's what it is. But yeah. Rich, who you got?
Well, I want Owens to win because, how many times has he been in the spot? He's in title shot after title shot. He loses. If they went your route and he got DQ'd, I wouldn't mind as much, but I don't see them ending the show like that. And I do have Cody winning. So it looks like Kevin is again going to being a title match, main event, and going to lose it again.
It's like the saying, always a bridesmaid, never a bride.
Yeah. and it's, you know, I'm going to write something on it with my predictions tomorrow on PW Mania, but it's been 7 years since he's had a singles title. Wait, what was that?
I said plug alert.
Plug alert.
By the way, not to cut you off, we gotta get a Rich Michaels pointless wrestling fact this evening. Totally forgot. Well, you about to say something that sounds like it might be a pointless fact.
No. I was thinking about it, trying to be funny, this and that. So,
yeah.
Nia Jax and Tangaloa should create an intergender tag team, and they should be called the Botches.
Oh man.
What?
and that was Rich Michaels pointless wrestling fact.
All they do is botch, dude.
That's pretty fucked, man.
I cannot confirm or deny
that
the botches have happened. But no, you were saying something about the 7 years?
It's been 7 years since he had a singles title, and it's crazy to think of somebody like Owens not having a singles title for that long. But he's somebody that doesn't really need a title on him. He stays relevant regardless, and he's always going to be in the main event scene. But you know, after a while, you just see loss after loss after loss. It gets played out after a while. But I don't see any way of him winning the title here. Not long term, anyway.
Right. Yeah, it'd be nice if you were to win.
Yeah, I agree. I completely agree.
Like it would be nice just to see the pivot of this story, just to see, you know, how Kevin Owens would then change, and then next thing you know, he's going to be like the me guy. It's all about me. Like, it ain't about you. Like, what are you still worried about him? I'm the champion. Like, I could see him going that route. Who was like that back in WCW back in the day? I'm trying to think. I was like, it's all about me. No, Raven. That's what I'm thinking about. What about me?
See, I can also see, you know, because clearly they're keen on keeping each title on each show. I could also see Owens winning and them Cody getting moved over to Raw to kind of help with the Netflix deal. And then once he's over on Raw, he's challenging for the Raw title.
Oh, yeah, he's going right back into the Rumble. One more time.
No.
Why not? Stone Cold did it, what?
I think he get booed if that was the case and he wins it the third time.
Oh, yeah, he going to get booed regardless. Because, you know that type of fan base that's going to be at the Rumble, that's going to be fans from across the country.
Oh, yeah.
I'm trying to see if I can find the fiery promo.
Wait,
Owens? I didn't get to watch all of SmackDown. Owens wore a Stardust shirt today.
You know what? I didn't catch it. I saw the beatdown. Oh wow, that's hilarious.
Stardust.
That's great.
Bro, what if that's what was in the briefcase, not the winged title?
Oh no, that might be
because Stardust was gold,
right?
And that briefcase when you opened was gold.
That would be a letdown.
and they said one night only, and he not only mentioned Stardust in his promo, he wore Stardust on his shirt.
So you think it is a chance he might come back as Stardust
for one night only?
For one night only? That would be wild.
Wilder things have happened.
Yeah. If I was Cody, I'd run as far away from fucking the Stardust character as I can. I would never go.
Yeah, but you do the Stardust to kind of embrace the troll job that Owens has been doing, because he said tonight you're more interesting at Stardust and stuff.
Right.
You know, you just do it just to kind of embrace it and kind of like
it actually would be a little bit funny. But if he were to do that, if he actually did come back at Stardust, I think he would lose. Might not lose the title, but in some fashion he would lose. But then if that in that case, that almost protects him. And then of course the story would continue until he have to fight the American Nightmare 1-on-1, which then maybe Cody could probably retain. Yeah, just thinking out loud on that. But
Interesting. It is.
Yeah. I'm still sticking with KO winning by DQ or something. So, because I think in that case, that would then carry them over, and they'll probably shoot. It might carry over to the Netflix for a match.
Yeah,
It's possible.
Yeah, and then you have that happen, and then he retains. You know what I mean, from beating KO then, and then here comes Dwayne. Like, remember me? I'm back.
he'll stand at the entrance and it'll just point.
Exactly. Because he all in the commercial, like he's going like he advertised. Like, now watch that actually happens. I'm calling it right now. That's my call of the evening, or I should say the morning, because it is 12:11. So, all right, gentlemen, we at the 2:05 mark. No point intended. 2:05. But no, this is a pretty dope show. Again, shout out to Beyond Wrestling promoter Drew Cordeiro, joining us earlier. Talking everything from Beyond, the upcoming shows going on the 26th and the 31st. I definitely will love to have him back on, just to kind of pick his brain, even talk a little bit more outside of Beyond. I mean, like coming up and watching wrestling and stuff. So curious, what I mean. Like, how like coming up as kids, like you have, everybody want to like start a promotion and stuff, like,
yeah.
And in a way, it's like he actually did that, what I mean,
Yeah.
from a different aspect,
Yep.
and being a product like around like that backyard wrestling era, like I think that was an interesting conversation that we didn't we talked about it, but we didn't like really dive into it. But I'm curious to know a little bit more on on that side of things, and with that marketing background, like that was interesting to know. So, but all right, fellas, any last things before we kick on out of here?
No.
Nope.
All right. Well, in that case, this was Still Steps, powered by All Authentic Talk Sports Network. Mr. Joey Woods, Mr. Rich Michaels. I am Politic and Hawk, and we will holla at y'all next weekend. Well, not next weekend, but next Friday. Till then, peace.